Hi and welcome back to my channel. It's wonderful to see you here. Today we're going to be talking all about procrastination, as it's something that affects so many people. In fact, I think it affects all people at one time in their life. And this was a question that was brought to me about someone who finds it really difficult to actually get stuff done, so that she knows that she's got a lot of stuff to do. She's got a lot of projects on at the moment, and she finds that if she's in the middle of something, she'll find herself just like putting it off, not doing it, thinking about it, but then not actually reaching it, not actually getting to it, which I think all of us can relate to in one way or another. And what I wanted to talk to you about is because it links into a few other, like procrastination is so interesting because it's showing you that something needs to get done. Okay, so there's like this drive for something needs to get done, and then what is it that's stopping you? What is it that's pushing you back from that at that moment? And it's interesting, when we were talking about this through the question, one thing that came up that often comes up is the overthinking of that thing. So what happens is, in that moment, you know you've got to do something. You start to think about it, and then you start to think like too much. And as you go into that overthinking, what happens is your train of thought. So you start thinking about things. Maybe you'll push back for a moment. Maybe you'll just have a few moments. I'm just going to take a break for a minute before I carry on. And then in that moment, your brain starts to just move on its own. And then what normally happens is, in that moment, there'll be a trigger, something that will feel uncomfortable, or will feel that, you're not good enough. You start to doubt yourself in that moment. And then you'll go into a negative thought spiral with that. So this is one form of procrastination. There's a few different ones I'm going to go through today. But that one is really when you just there and you start to think about what you've got to do, and then you start to doubt yourself in that moment, and then it leads you into a place of more and more self-doubt, which then stops you actually moving forward. So in that moment, what I would advise you to do is the understanding that, first of all, in that moment, start to become aware. One of the things I talk about all the time is how awareness is the first point of change. As soon as you become aware of any pattern that you've got, there's an availability for you. There's a doorway into you for being able to make a change, be able to do something else. So I want you just, over the next week, I want you to start to literally observe yourself doing this, right? Start to notice what happens. Start to notice, okay, when does this form of procrastination come up? Like, as soon as you start noticing that you're doing it, being aware of that, okay, now I go into that thought pattern. Now I'm getting hold of that thought, and I'm starting to feel like either doubting myself or nervous, or there's something that's happening within me that feels a bit uncomfortable, and then I'm starting to feel fear, because normally that it kind of links onto each other. So self-doubt moves into like worrying, which moves into fear. So just starting to watch that process, and then being aware of, language is king, because the words that you're telling yourself are spells. So whatever you're saying to yourself, it's having an effect on your system, effect on your energetic body. Okay. So what I want you to do is start to be aware of the language that you use in that moment. So when you notice yourself started going into that, like overthinking, into that self-doubt, what are you saying to yourself? What are the words? And normally we've got between 3 to 5 drivers that are actually, it's almost like they're sentences that we've said to ourselves a lot. There's like a broken record of, I'm not good enough, I can't do it. What if I do it and it's not enough? What if I'm doing the wrong thing? I can't do it. I can't cope. All of these things in that moment, you look for yours, look for what yours are, because everyone's brain works slightly differently. So starting to think about, okay, what are those driving sentences that happen? And then once you've got those, once you've found those driving sentences, I want you to literally arm yourself with a different way of thinking, a different way of speaking, different sentences that you can have for yourself. So you literally do the opposite. So if something that you're saying is, I can't do it, then turn it around to, I can do this. And then it's interesting because at the beginning, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. I just want to invite you into the starting that there's a different language here available for you, because most of us don't even have, if I say to you, think about all the things that you can negatively say to yourself that put yourself down, or that make you feel like you can't move forward, or that you feel overwhelmed. Most people have got a massive list that they are used to thinking or saying to themselves, or putting themselves in a situation where they don't feel good enough. Whereas if I said to you, okay, think of all the things that you say to yourself that really empower you, that make yourself feel stronger, better, more able, more motivated, more capable, that move you forward. And most people are like, I don't even have any, right? We don't have this language. We're not brought up with this language. We're not taught this language of how to actually motivate and encourage yourself to move forward, which is exactly what you need in that form of procrastination. So what I want to invite you to do is start to create almost a list of language, motivating language, or language that makes you feel stronger, more empowered, more capable. Okay, so in that moment, you can actually start to speak to yourself from a different space. I talk a lot about having, there's the ego voice, the voice that makes you feel smaller, makes you feel that you're more limited, that you're not the greatest version of yourself. Often we see ourselves in a way that other people don't see us. We see ourselves being smaller, less capable, particularly women, but men do this as well. It's both, but particularly women, less able to do things. They actually did a study with a group of women to put themselves into the dress size that they thought they were, and every single woman put themselves 2 dress sizes bigger than they actually were. So that's just an example of how we tend to think of ourselves as a different version of ourselves than the world sees us. So what I'm going to invite you to do is start to, instead of listening to that voice and using that voice, which happens in that moment of procrastination and overthinking, when we get trapped into those negative thought spirals, I want you to start giving yourself another different way of speaking and communicating yourself from the place of truth, right? And this is a really beautiful exercise that you can do, is ask your 3 to 5 of your best friends three words that they would use to describe you. And if you do this with more people, you'll start to see that there's a pattern that people give you, how they see you, how they would describe you, and start to see yourself through their eyes. And then start to speak to yourself through, if you were imagining the most powerful, motivated, brilliant version of you when you're on your A game, you when you're completely on point, you when you're actually there, like giving everything of yourself. What would that version of you say to yourself in that moment? How could you speak to yourself from that way? Because there's a different energy. And practice this. You can do this now, or you can do this afterwards. Say to yourself, I can't do this. I can't do it. I can't cope. I can't manage. Right? Just say that to yourself a few times. Then just wait for a second, and then say to yourself, I can do this. I can do it. I can do it. I totally can do this. I can smash this. I can do this. I can nail this. And there's a different energy. There's a different frequency which will be in your body. So I want you to start literally writing a list of new language that you're going to start to say to yourself. And in those moments, especially in that moment where you're realizing, okay, I'll just have a little break. I'll step back, and then you start to realize what your brain's doing and you're hooking on some kind of form of self-doubt. Then I want you to just actually use this list that you have of things that you can say to yourself that empower you, that make you feel more motivated, that make you feel more encouraged to do that. And I'd love to see in the comments you to write your empowered language, or you can even write, if you want my help, you can write the sentences that are there that disempower you, and then I can actually help you to give you new more empowered way of thinking and speaking. Because once we start to speak to ourselves from a different place, we can start to motivate ourselves. And I'm gonna do another episode that's purely about overthinking and how to stop that. But this is a really good way of actually being able to find, first of all, witness when you're procrastinating, then witness what's happening next, like watching yourself. Okay, what happens? What do I say to myself? What am I doing? Because we think we're automatically acting all the time, but underneath there's a driver that's coming from our brain that often we're not aware that we're doing. So with that awareness, and then give yourself a new way of speaking to yourself. Okay, I can do this. I'm going to do it so quickly. I'm brilliant at this. Once I get this over, it's going to be so exciting. I'm so happy to be able to do this. I'm so grateful that I get the opportunity to do this. I can't wait until this is finished. Oh my God, I'm going to feel amazing once this is done. I'm strong enough. I'm capable enough. I can, all of this whole like motivating language, because it creates a different frequency in your body. It pulls you forward. So just starting to witness that. So witness, notice what's happening, shift the language, and then move from that place. So I'm going to be really interested in your comments to see what happens. Another thing about procrastination that I wanted to talk to you about is often as I said at the beginning, it's a sign that something needs to happen, and it's a sign that the action needs to be taken. And this is something we're really unaware of, is actually that this is a brilliant signal within your body to tell you that action needs to happen at that moment. And often there's like there's a concept behind it. Maybe it's boring, maybe it's, there's all these evasion tactics that we have. So what I want you to do is just to be aware of, okay, what evasion tactics do you have? Do you in that moment go and clean all the house? Do you just go into thinking about all different things that you've got to do? Do you go into overwhelm? What is your evasion tactic at that moment? So again, being aware, once we're aware of what we're doing, there is, as I say, there's a beautiful way that we can actually move through it and give ourselves a different choice. Because most of the time we've got an unconscious behavior. And once we bring that unconscious behavior into consciousness, we can change it. So what I want you to, because you're just thinking, well, I'm just procrastinating. But what I want you to look at is like, what are you doing? What's happening in that moment? Because often we end up doing different things instead of the actual thing. And also something I want to invite you here, which is a little bit controversial in a way, though there's also divine timing. So there's an understanding that when you do what you're doing, you do it at the right moment, the right moment for you. So if that does mean maybe you do something else first, there's also an understanding that maybe the perfect moment that you're meant to do that thing is exactly the moment you're meant to do it. So it's looking at and also understanding and accepting, rather than beating yourself up in that moment. It's like, why aren't I doing this? Why aren't this? There's also maybe a preparation happening in you to be able to do that thing. So just have that awareness as well. It's like maybe there's a point in you that's going to be really ready to do it. And maybe the actions that you need to take around it are part of the doing of the thing. They're part of getting it done. As long as you get it done, that's the main thing. But the thing you can actually do is actually, instead of going through this big circle, so there's a thing that we're starting to do. Then what we go on, and then we go into the process of actually at that point, maybe worrying about it, beating ourselves up because we're not doing it, thinking about, okay, I'm going to do something else, doubting it. This comes over here. Then we normally so we'll go through a process of really beating ourselves up for not doing it. So we end up over here. And then there comes a point where we're like, okay, now I've really got to do it. So then we start to take action on it. And then we take the action, which is over here, and then we go in and do the thing, right? So we do this big circle. So what I invite you into is going to the place where you start to think like, oh, I'm doubting, what am I doing? And then having this awareness here, and instead of going through this whole beating yourself up process until it actually happens, and this will be interesting to when you start to watch this, just going straight over, just going, okay, this is a trigger. So I'm feeling these things now. I'm aware of the self-doubt. I'm aware of this. I can either go through all that process of beating myself up and getting to this place, or I can just make a decision and go straight over. And I can just take the action straight away. So it's also giving you like a moment, like a signal of taking action in that moment. So I want you to just witness a lot of these things, because once we start to have that ability to see what's going on in our body and see what we're doing, then we can make the change. So it'd be interesting to see. I'm really looking forward to your comments on this, to see how procrastination actually affects you. What you're noticing are the ways that you are kind of, the points and the things that you're doing that are taking you away from the actual task you're meant to be doing in hand. What are you noticing are your processes that happen. So this will be really, really interesting for you to start noticing, because there is a level of procrastination that can also help us get to where we want to go. Make sure that we're doing and we're getting to the right place at the right time. We're so quick to judge ourselves, and we're so quick to judge our actions. So just allowing some acceptance and awareness will make a big difference to what you're doing, and a big difference to actually being able to find out, okay, how do I get from here to here? And as soon as you notice yourself going into those behaviors, so maybe, okay, I'm going and cleaning the house, or I'm doing this, it's like, okay, so now what do I want to do? Do I want to beat myself up about doing that? Or do I want to just get that done and then move straight away to the next thing? Let's just look at this. This will be very interesting to actually go into the comments, see what you're saying, because I'd love to have any questions on this as well, so I can answer it in another episode. So yeah, it's really, there's an exciting way that you can move forward through this and finding this observation. So just summing up quickly, there's the one way where you go into the overthinking and the negative doubt. So being aware there of having a different language, a different way of speaking to yourself, and noticing what happens when you do that. Noticing what happens when you just have a conversation with yourself from a different space, from a space of actually moving forward, motivation. You can do this, you're going to get it done so quickly. It's going to all happen for you. That space, and notice what happens then, how it affects you. And then there's the other way where you just start to witness what are the things that you're doing instead. Okay, are they necessary? Are they important? Do you beat yourself up about it? At what point is this becoming something that can actually be used as a friend, can actually be used as actually this is a preparation for that, and starting to witness and observe how you can powerfully move through this way of acting, and actually use it as a way that can help you. Use it a way that you can motivate you for moving forward. So yeah, looking forward to hearing your comments, seeing your comments, and any questions, let me know.